So it's almost April, which means it is time to put together my April TBR, and April is for me the month of final projects. I have 2 final projects that are due at the end of the month. I have one that I have to present in the middle of the month. It's not actually fully due, but I have to present portions of it. So that's kind of what I'm going into here at the start of the spring season. I'm going to be doing lots of research, lots of writing, and lots of just kind of general project work. I'm also doing a creative project for one of them, so there's going to be a lot of time spent working on that piece of it. And because of that, I've decided that I'm really going to try and take it easy in April. There's no readathons that I'm planning to participate in. There's no book clubs I'm going to do anything for. That being said, I really wanted to focus in April on reading things that I'm extremely excited to read, or things that I think are going to be fairly quick and easy reads, so that I can kind of slot them in the little bits of free time I do get, because I am really in a reading mood lately, and I just want to make this as easy for myself as possible to kind of pick things up and just read here and there where I can. So that's kind of what I was thinking about making this TBR, and I don't have a huge stack of books to talk about, so this should be pretty short and sweet. But first I thought we would start with the book that I do have to read for school. It's the one thing that I know I will actually 100% be reading because it has a deadline attached to it. So the book I'm going to be reading for school is for my class on materialist feminisms. Don't know why that word was so hard to say today, but this is Zomfam by Kamala Mackerel, who is an artist and a scholar and a community builder, and this is their debut poetry collection. I'm actually very excited about this. A lot of what we've been reading in this class has been very theory heavy, and the more primary sources we've been reading, or not primary, but the non-theory sources we've been reading have been feminist manifestos or creative nonfiction. So I'm really looking forward to reading this and getting kind of a different kind of conversation started in the class. So I'm very excited for this one. And because I think that the marketing copy does a better job describing this than I ever could, I have pulled that up, and I'm just going to read you the first line because I feel like it really gives you a good idea of what this book is going to be. But this says, in their debut poetry collection, Kamala Mackerel mythologizes a queer trans narrative of and for their home island, Mauritius. There you go. Much more concise than I ever could be. I'm very excited to read this. I did kind of flip through and start reading the earlier poems, and I'm so excited. I can already tell this is going to be a really great collection, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy my time reading it. It's also using a lot of interesting formatting. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really great experience, and on top of the fact that we get to read something that's just completely different from what we've been reading, the author is coming to campus to give a talk, and they're also doing, I think, a private discussion with my instructor's classes. Very excited about that. Unfortunately, I can't attend the closed discussion, but I am going to go to the talk that's during our normal class time. Unfortunately, the discussion is happening during my other class time, so I can't go to that, but I'm really excited to read this and see what they have to say about this work and about their work in general. I think it's just going to be a really great experience. I'm really looking forward to it. So beside my school reading, I do have a couple of themed videos planned for April. I'm hopeful I can get these done, but again, it's going to be a little dependent on the time that I manage to find around my projects and things. That being said, I do want to at least give you a sense of what's coming up. So the one that I don't have anything actually pulled out for that I think will be coming at the end of the month is the start of a vlog series I want to create for my channel. That's going to be, I think, monthly or maybe bi-monthly. Haven't quite decided yet, but I'm going to be calling it Shelf Control. I have not found anything else with that title, so if you are aware of something that I've missed that already has that title and I need to rethink that, definitely let me know. But this is going to be just a monthly or bi-monthly series where I am very focusedly reading down my shelves behind me. I was amused when I came up with Shelf Control because it's self-control but also pest control was my thinking. So for each episode, my plan is to come up with a slightly different way of picking the books that I'm going to be reading. I think this first episode is going to be a currently reading clear out episode where I'll be just kind of reading things I've already started. I think that that's kind of what I'm going to have the capacity for in April, but I'm also planning a spinner wheel episode, and I'm coming up with some other ways of picking things. I also have this, I think it's on this side, this bag that has all my unread books in it, so I want to do an episode where I'm just pulling directly out of the bag, and I just want to find some different fun ways to pick the books that I'm going to be reading. so that it's always kind of like fresh and different, and hopefully will help me kind of keep that motivation to be reading off my shelves. So that is the plan for that, but I don't have any specific books to talk about for that this time, just because I want to wait and see kind of what my schedule is like, what my free time is like, and work around that for April. The other video I have planned for April, I do have some specific books picked out for, and this is going to be a quarter 1 pre-orders vlog. Essentially, I'm trying to get better about reading my pre-orders when they come into my house instead of letting them languish on the shelves with everything else. So I've got a handful of books here that I pre-ordered in the first quarter of the year that I haven't gotten to yet. I did manage to read a few of my pre-orders, but I have a few that I haven't gotten to yet. And I'm gonna attempt to get to these 4 in that vlog. It's gonna be a little bit intimidating. 3 of these I'm not worried about. One of them I think could derail the project, but they're all things that I'm super excited to read, so I'm really hopeful I can fit this in somewhere. But the first book I have for this is The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels, which is a mixed media mystery about a cult. It sounds super fun. I've read and loved books from Janice Hallett before, and I'm really enjoying mixed media mysteries lately. And I think this is the first one I've encountered that isn't about like a murder mystery, like it's a cult instead. So I'm really curious to see what direction this is gonna go, and I think it's gonna be just like a fun, easy read that'll be fairly simple to get like fitted into my schedule and everything. So I'm very excited for this one. The second book is the one I'm worried might derail everything, and this is The Book of Isle Rien by Martha Wells, which is about 700 pages. It's actually 2 books bound together, the first one being The Element of Fire, which is about a captain of a Queen's Guard who is trying to prevent harm to the kingdom, I believe when an illegitimate daughter shows up and is trying to claim the throne. So that sounds super political and interesting. And then there's also The Death of the Necromancer, which is about a nobleman who is also a jewel thief, and there is some sort of like necromantic power creeping into the city. So this sounds so interesting, and I'm very excited for both of these. It's the one that like, it's the chunkiest and it's gonna take the longest to read, so I'm a little worried that this might be the book that derails this and pushes it into May. I'm really hopeful though that maybe as things are kind of quieting down once I've gotten most of my projects done, that maybe I'll be able to kind of slot it in sometime then. The last 2 books I have for this are both YA, one of them is fantasy and one of them is horror, and I think these are gonna be both like very propulsive and like twisty and intriguing, so I'm not worried about getting through either of these at all. The first one is The Last Blood Carver by Vanessa Lee, which is about Nika, who is a blood carver. She can alter human biology with just a touch, and she ends up being captured and sold to a family that want her to heal the last witness to the patriarch's murder. And in the process, she gets pointed towards this physician's aide. I think his name is like Vin Cochin, maybe? Yeah, that's correct. So Vin Cochin, and there seems to be maybe some sort of like enemies situation going on here, but she's basically like trying to solve a murder, and I think she ends up having to work with him to figure out what the heck is going on. I love a good murder mystery. This magic system sounds so interesting. I really want to know how all of it works, and I'm excited about the kind of medical aspects of this. So I'm thinking this one is probably going to be like a fast read for me, just because it's got so many elements that I'm excited about. You're gonna hear me say excited a lot because I really did try to focus on things that I am excited to read, that I've been kind of like dying to pick up. So apologies for the 50 more times you're gonna hear me say the word excited, but I don't feel bad enough to not do it. We're just gonna keep saying it. This last book for this video is The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland, which was not a pre-order in quite the same way. This was the Evernight book for Q1 of 2024, and I just wanted to put it in here because it is technically a new book, even if I didn't like specifically pre-ordered it. It was a box, I didn't really know it was coming, but I just want to go ahead and like read it since it's just entered my library, and it sounds super fun, and it's like witchy, maybe kind of feminist vibes. It's about these 3 women who get caught up in each other's lives when they are all invested in a serial killer investigation. One of them is the younger sister of a woman who was a victim of the serial killer. One of them is rotting from a curse that she's accidentally unleashed on herself. And the third one is a curse writer, and she's been helping women deal with the men who have wronged them by writing curses for them. The problem is that the serial killer is targeting her former clients. So these 3 women have to work together to figure out what's going on, who the serial killer is, what do they want, and try to stop him. And it just sounds so twisty and fun, and I'm very intrigued to see where all of those elements are going to come together, because it sounds like there's kind of a lot going on. So those are all the like very specific video plan things, and besides that I didn't want to put like a lot of other things on my TBR, so I've only picked a couple of other short things, a couple of things I've been dying to read because I keep picking them up off my shelf, looking at them and going, I don't have time right now, putting them back down, and then picking them up again and then putting them back down. So that's what influenced these decisions. And the first two things here, the first two of those are both manga. I've been really in a manga mood lately, and I've got Phantom Tales of the Night Volume 2 and Way of the House Husband Volume 6 to read. This one is horror about an inn where you can stay for the price of your darkest secrets, and it's kind of following this innkeeper who's this kind of weird entity that we're not really sure what he's doing, what he's up to. There's also a monster hunter of sorts who seems to be trying to kill the innkeeper for unknown reasons. Really intrigued to see where the series is going. And then Way of the House Husband is following Tatsu, who is a house husband, but he was formerly a notorious yakuza called the Immortal Dragon, and he does everything like really intensely and with a scary look on his face. And this is just like a hijinks ensue kind of book where it's Tatsu doing these like very normal things, but in a very intense and creepy way. And I just love this series. It's so fun and silly, and it never fails to put just a silly smile on my face when I'm reading it. So I think this is going to be great for a stressful month when I just kind of like need to pick me up somewhere in there, you know? The last book that's already on my shelf that I want to put on my TBR is The Blighted Stars by Megan E. O'Keefe. This one is also kind of chunky, so this might be kind of a bad idea, but I have been dying to pick this book up ever since I bought it, and I picked it up because I had seen a few good reviews. I now, of course, can't remember who posted those reviews, but I've seen a few people talking about this and talking about how good it was, and it's a like political sci-fi with a strong romantic subplot, and I love political sci-fi with a strong romantic subplot. I found that I really like romance in sci-fi and fantasy in a way that I don't really care for it in like contemporary stuff, but I'm just so intrigued by this one. So this is following Naira Sharp, who is a part of a revolutionary group that are trying to stop this major galactic empire, and Tarquin Mercator, who is one of the heirs of that empire. And the two of them are on a mission to scout a planet for resources along with like a whole crew of people. She is trying to sabotage the mission, and Tarquin just doesn't even want to be here. He doesn't really want to be a part of the family business, but they're both stuck on this mission, and then before either of them can do anything, the whole thing falls apart when they crash land on a planet and have to try and survive together. So I'm so interested to see where this is going to go. I think it's going to have lots of like machinations and politics, but also I've heard that the romance is pretty good in here as well, so I'm just really hopeful for this one too. I think I used hopeful as a word earlier. Watch me like realize how I speak and the patterns that I use in real time. I want to love this book, and I have been dying to pick it up ever since I bought it, and I can't resist putting it on this TBR, is what I'm trying to say. The very last thing I want to talk about is a pre-order. It's fairly short, so I think when it arrives I should be able to fit it in somewhere, but we're getting The Dead Cattail Assassins by Peter Jelly Clark this month. I'm so excited for this because I love Peter Jelly Clark's writing and these like really incredible unique worlds that he creates, and this one is about an assassin who has a new mark, and she ends up coming face to face with something that forces her to remember something that she shouldn't be able to remember, and the description also says something about a vow she can't forget. It's one of those that has like a very vague synopsis, but I'm totally okay with that because I've loved so many of Peter Jelly Clark's other books that I kind of don't care what he writes at this point. I'm just going to pick it up and read it because I know it's going to be great. So those are all the books that I'm hoping to read in April. I don't know what ones I will actually get to besides Zomfam. I know I will have to read that one. I will hopefully have that Q1 pre-orders vlog up probably mid to late April. Shelf Control should be coming out in late April as well, and we'll just see what happens. I'm gonna do my best. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do a good chunk of the work on my final projects in the next couple of weeks and maybe have some time in the latter part of the month, but again, it's all just gonna kind of depend on what I actually managed to get done. So that's pretty much all I have for you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below what you're planning to read in April, and if you like this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.